Do you only work on your mental game when you're in a huge downswing or otherwise off in a ditch? Or do you work on your mindset all the time? This is Dr. Tricia Cardner, and I'm going to be going over this common mindset mistake as well as many others in this new mini series that I'm going to have going on my channel where I bust common mindset mistakes and myths. So if this sounds interesting to you, let's get into it. Over the years, I've worked with many poker players, and I found that what most people believe to be true about the mental game of poker is actually inaccurate, misleading, or false. And those very beliefs could be making you miserable. The first mistake that I want to talk about, and it might be the most common, is one that a lot of poker players do. And that is they tell themselves, I only need to work on my mental game if and when I'm running bad. Can you imagine a high level athlete ignoring the mental game or only working on it when they're playing at their best? Nowadays, Olympic athletes and other high level athletes all utilize performance psychology. But it's not just athletes. In business, military, and other important ventures, they all bring in psychological consultants in order to help. Now, why is this? It's because you don't want to leave your edge to chance, no matter what discipline you're in. But interestingly, I find that poker players often do this. I'd suggest that every poker player is looking for an edge, but the one that I find is the least often tapped or developed is the psychological. And it's not just poker players who make this mistake. I've seen a number of studies that show that a very high proportion of golfers agree that a large part of golf is mental, but most golfers spend virtually no time on the mental game. While they know it's important, they don't do much about it. How big of a role do you think psychology plays in poker success? Is it 10, 20, or 30%? Or do you think it's more like 70, 80, or even 90%? How much of a role does psychology play in being a poker success? Take a second and jot down your number. Now, I'd like you to think about how much of your time, energy, and focus is devoted to psychology. At what percentage would you put that number? I'm just going to guess that there is probably a huge disconnect between your two numbers. That is, on the one hand, I bet you don't spend as much time as you should on psychology. But on the other, you probably believe that psychology and mindset plays a pretty important role to poker. I'm not blaming you if there's a huge disconnect between your two numbers, and that's because most poker players just don't know what they need to do in this area. But I am going to tell you is that just reading about poker psychology or reading motivational quotes is not going to be enough to help you develop an edge, and that's because it's not a solid strategy. You have to learn psychological strategies that are based in science if you want to improve in this area. Because money triggers emotions, and it's highly likely that we will experience discomfort at the poker table, we need to come up with techniques and strategies within our playing plans to address all these psychological issues that are guaranteed to be present. We need to know what we're going to do when we veer away from our solid strategy due to emotions. How will we get ourselves back on track? I just wanted to interject here for a second and say, if you're getting value out of this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Now let's get back into it. One thing that I know for sure is that if you lack psychological strategies, you'll find yourself doing the same things over and over again. The variables that contribute to mindset issues will always be there. They don't just go away on their own. So you need to start thinking about what are some of the psychological strategies that you need to learn and implement to improve your mindset. The second thing that I know for sure is that the poker players who make the most money and have the most success long term have figured out ways for dealing with the discomfort and anxiety and fear and anger that can come along with poker. And for some, it's as simple as knowing when not to play. Now, the final aspect of this myth that I want to address is that while it's great for us to spend time studying and working on our game, For most of us, when we lose or we get on a losing streak, we spend even more time studying, never considering that our problem could be how we're interacting with our thoughts and emotions. That is, we don't recognize that what we need to do to improve our situation is to work on our mental game. One of the best ways to improve your mental game is to learn how to manage your feelings. Notice I didn't use the word control, I used the word manage. If you know how to manage your feelings, then you'll be better able to manage your hands. That's because we do things as humans to avoid discomfort in one way, shape, or form. That's just human nature. But when we act on our feelings without thinking, we'll make all kinds of mistakes and errors. While it takes time, effort, and energy to build out your own mental game strategies toolkit, I want to give you something that you can use right now. Whenever you get into a sticky situation or before you make an important decision, I want you to get used to asking yourself the question, am I acting in my own best interest right now? You can also take this a step further by using what is known as an implementation intention. This is a statement that tells you what to do in a particular situation. Basically, if X happens, then I do Y. If I find myself getting emotional, then I just ask myself, am I acting in my own best interest right now? That's a form of an implementation intention that you can start using right away to improve your mindset. As you've likely guessed, I think it's really important that you start taking action in order to improve your mindset and to build some psychological strategies that you can use whenever things start getting tough. It's important that you practice using the strategies even when things are going well, so that when things are getting tough, you'll be able to use them like second nature. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you'll be alerted to my next video where I'm going to be busting the myth that you need to be like a robot or like Mr. Spock at the table in order to be a great poker player. Hopefully, this little tidbit whets your appetite for what's to come. So without further ado, I'll just close this out by saying keep working on that mindset.